Okay, we've established how to make the unit circle, including the angle measurement in degrees and radians, and then how to come up with a coordinate that is next to each of these little spots on the unit circle. But what we haven't talked about yet was, what do these coordinates represent? The coordinates that you're used to looking at come in the form of x comma y. Well, the x portion, or the first part of the coordinate, is your cosine of the angle's answer, and the second part is the sine of the angle's answer. So back when we used to do sine and cosine and tangent from a right triangle, now we're going to do the same idea using the unit circle, except for we don't have to draw a right triangle and we don't have to set up the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse or adjacent over hypotenuse, because that's all embedded. It's all embedded in this unit circle. So the coordinate that's right here, if you remember correctly, is the square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, right? Well, what I'm saying is that the cosine of this angle, which is 30 degrees, is going to be the square root of 3 over 2. It's going to be the first one. And if you do it on your calculator, the cosine of 30 degrees, it will give you the decimal equivalent to the square root of 3 over 2. But we don't want that irrational decimal. We want the exact value. The sine of 30 degrees is 1/2. And again, if you type in the sine of 30 degrees on your calculator, it will give you the decimal equivalent of 0.5. So what about right here? This coordinate is the square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2. That means the cosine is the square root of 2 over 2, and so is the sine of this angle. So if you type in your calculator the cosine of 45 degrees, it will give you the decimal equivalent to this, which is 0.7 approximately. And the neat thing about the 45 degree multiples is it's the same thing on the left and the right side. So the cosine and the sine are the same number. So the biggest thing you got to remember is that the cosine's answer is on the left side. It comes first. The sine's answer is on the second side, which comes second. And in case you ever forget, remember how when you were first taught the coordinate point, they always told you, your teacher told you that x comma y, x comes before y in the alphabet, alphabetical? Same thing here. Cosine is the first number, sine is the second number. Now, tangent is not in that coordinate, but tangent can be found by doing sine divided by cosine. So you're actually going to have to take your values and actually divide them. So for example, if I was asking for the tangent of 30 degrees, I would take my sine answer, which is 1/2, and then I would divide it by my cosine answer, which is square root of 3 over 2. And now to get rid of dividing by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. So I would multiply by 2 over the square root of 3, which those will cancel. Remember, go straight across. 1 times 2. Go straight across on the bottom. And then, of course, we could rationalize later. But tangent is sine over cosine. Now, what if I ask you for one of the 3 trig functions that are all the reciprocals? So what if I ask you for secant? Well, remember, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So find cosine and then take the reciprocal. And we're going to do a couple of these on the next page. All right. So let's just start with the degrees here. So what if I ask you for cosine of 60 degrees? So you go to 60 degrees. Cosine, which one of these is your cosine? It's the front one. So your answer would be 1/2, and then you're done. That's all you have to do is tell me which one is my cosine. Okay, what if I asked you for the sine of 135 degrees? So you have to figure out where 135 degrees is on the unit circle. Think about the coordinate, or look at your unit circle. The sine is the second number, so it's this one. So then I would say the square root of 2 over 2, and that's it. Okay, what if I said I want the tangent of 180 degrees? We got to remember that tangent is sine over cosine. So I go to 180. Sine is the second number, so I start with 0 divided by cosine. 0 divided by anything, the answer would be 0. Okay, what if I ask for tangent of 90 degrees? Again, it's sine over cosine. Here's 90. The sine is the second number, 1. The cosine is the first number. That is undefined, and if you try to do it in your calculator, it actually says error. It's impossible to find. All right, now what if I go a step further now? What if I want you to do some of the more complex ones? Okay, what if I ask you for cotangent of 225 degrees? Well, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent. Tangent is sine over cosine, so the reciprocal of that would be cosine over sine. So I go to 225 degrees, which is right here. Which one of these is my cosine? The first one divided by the second one. Little trick here. Whenever you're dividing a fraction by a fraction and the denominators are the same, they will end up canceling each other out anyways. It only works when they're the same. And so now you're left with negative square root of 2 divided by negative square root of 2, and that would just give you a positive 1. Okay. What if I ask for secant of 300 degrees? Secant is a reciprocal of cosine. So go to 300, which is right here. The cosine is the first one. Now take the reciprocal of that. So it's just going to be 2. So what you need to do is you need to find the spot on the unit circle. Figure out, is it the first coordinate, which is cosine? Is it the second coordinate, which is sine? If it's any of the other 4, you might have to do a little bit of work first. And then give me the exact number. Don't type anything into the calculator.